I want to welcome you to the Danville City Commission. Today's special call meeting on Wednesday, May the 21st at 2025. The time is 9:05 a.m. We have a few things on our agenda. The first one is resolution number 2025-05-2101, airport grant agreement. So I'd like to ask the commission, what's your pleasure on approving this grant agreement? Chair would entertain a motion.
I will move for approval of Resolution 2025-05-2101.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions, comments about the application? Anybody want to give a brief overview of this application for us?
It's a grant they've gotten. We're a pass-through agency. It's to support their master plan development at the airport.
Okay. No cost to the city?
Only the matching contribution you all have already committed to back, way back last year.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, likewise, motion carries. Thank you all. The next item on our agenda is fiscal year 26 budget, final budget presentation with revisions. So turn the meeting over to City Manager Earl Coffey.
Hey, Earl, what about the air conditioner line item? What do you say about that?
Well, so full disclosure, the AC, we got a little pump broke. It's got unfortunately, a long lead time. It's an easy fix, and those things can happen, but it's going to be warm in parts of the building. Thank goodness this room is still cool. Still not sure how the magic of Christmas works on that, but it's
Just giving you a hard time.
yeah.
Or can we funnel it out of here to the other parts of the building? Right?
Yeah, keep this door shut. That way it at least keep this room warm or cool. You have in front of you our slide talking about the budget process. We are in the stage of draft revisions. And so not much has changed since the last time we met. We did have an opportunity to talk with the department heads about the capital budget. There were some very minor changes to that, but nothing substantive. Is that the right word? Yeah. And so we're still sitting on the similar position as we were last time. You all were going to take the numbers away and look at them some and digest them. And Lee and I are really wanting a little bit of direction on the total and where we're landing. Two things that we didn't do since the last meeting is we haven't zeroed out. We're still upside down $17,000 in the utility fund, which is a $12 million expenditure next year. So we'll find $17,000 in expenses in the various departments. We can cut some of that. Mostly will come from some of the construction material that they allocate in each department. So there's 4 major departments that spends. We'll have to pull some of their construction material down a little bit in each one to make sure that's zeroed out. But we felt good on that number. The second thing is there's former Judge Executive Wilder will be here Tuesday night to talk about the 250th celebration. The county organized the committee. I've been going to the meetings to organize the nation's 250th celebration next summer. We will let him get into the details Tuesday and begin promoting the activities, but it's going to be a countywide celebration. There's all kinds of events, from the ideas of car shows to Millennium Park 4th of July efforts, a concert there, which the level of investment in the celebration was akin to what some of the other communities that have already celebrated. I know, for example, Harrisburg celebrated their 250th last year. And so his entry point budget was based on some of those numbers and some of the recommendations coming from the various entities he could talk to. And so I think the county has indicated they will support the celebration to the tune of $100,000. The catch is that's over 2 budget cycles. Some of the expenditures will come after July 1st of next summer. Some of the invoicing will. And so we were wanting some direction from you guys and would suggest that the commission match the county's effort over the next 2 budget cycles. And you would have to, if you were going to do that, we would have to add $50,000 in this budget to account for this year's half. And then you would understand we would be budgeting the balance of the budget next year. And so those 2 things are the big things that we've not done since the last time, which was, again, adding $50,000 for the 250th. Want to make sure you guys were generally of the same mindset on that issue. For now, like I said, Tony will be here on Tuesday to talk about the celebration and the comprehensive nature of it. They're even having an antique gun shootout in Junction City at the Isaac Shelby property. And so it's a really, really comprehensive series of events that will be important, and that Danville played a historically important role in the expansion west and into Kentucky and being the original state capital. And so we certainly can see the enthusiasm towards the celebration.
Any questions about that? You only found a spot to live there.
Well, we will have to add that to our non-departmental section of the budget.
That would,
It would be- I'm trying to
it's a
think
new
what the-
expense. I mean, we would probably add a specific line for it, just so that it does not get, sometimes it's beneficial to lump those in with another expense line, so we don't have to create another one just for accounting purposes, but we don't really necessarily want to lump that total into something like economic development. Even though it will benefit economic development in future years, we don't want to think that, oh, we budgeted them, X dollars in the past. So that would go somewhere in your 10 section on page 10.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. It would end up in non-departmental and other.
Well, and I like the concept about having it as a separate line item, so anything coming out of that, you'll be able to share it with us and make sure it's just for that. But that's an exciting time, though. Yeah, could be very exciting for the whole community. And the makeup of the committee, it's a community-wide committee, city and county folks.
Yeah, there's
Citizens.
folks from Junction City and Perryville and the Historical Society. It's a pretty good group, to be honest, and there's a lot of Danville representation on there. Of course, Danville's going to be a big part of the history directly, and then the others too. They each have different stages of history, just like Danville does.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good.
So there's a few granular changes on your capital sheets based on the discussion Earl had with management. A few things were adjusted in priority. And then in the general funds, we adjusted a little bit in some of the minor funds. The biggest change you will see was based on the meeting that Earl and Josh and Tommy were able to have. And I believe some of our city officials were there with the county officials, and their corresponding commitment to do some improvements. And so we did realign with some of those projects so that's page 2 of your capital.
Yeah, and so the county heard from Tommy and organized their thoughts and priorities around a series of projects that are shown on the far right of that spreadsheet. You can see the line items that they are attaching money to. That represents their half, and then so we match that in kind. So then you have a total project cost, for example, for the skate park improvements that they requested, of that project would be a $300,000 project. and that is then, it demonstrates the encouragement to do the mountain bike park. They agreed with the Millennium Park playground improvements. The central playground is the big one, trying to add the rubberized. We spent a lot of money over the years on mulch to that playground. This makes it the rollable, ADA accessible rubber pad, if you will, the granular pad. Then some commitment to the Millennium Park furnishings, not fully funded that. And then also they agreed with the ball field improvements and putting money towards that. The big thing that they are wanting to do that, and I'll explain what our recommended path is on those, is they're setting aside $600,000 for pickleball courts, because they felt like that was something that we could actually implement without a significant amount of planning. And so what our proposal is on that is not necessarily to include a lump sum in the budget, but go through the planning process with them, with Parks and Rec, like we should. Their desire is for those to be in the Whites Park area, which is, we do have a plan that has them in that space around the tennis courts. The location that we had planned it doesn't really get a lot of support. Not a lot of people like that location. So let them work through a planning process to figure out where those are going to be, develop the plans, get pricing, and as pricing comes back, then we can consider that at the time. Until we get all the way through that planning process, I'm not sure that the budget, if we put in money right now and we say, well, we want to match it with $600,000, I'm not sure that's what the final budget's going to be, and I'm not sure it's not going to warrant an amendment of some kind anyway. And so my suggestion is just kind of walk into the discussion rather than jump in. Let's evaluate what the plan is, get bids back, and see kind of what we're doing, and see if you confirm that's the path you want to go down with money.
Can they finance a pickleball court with $600,000?
That's
That's a good question, and you know, there's an idea if we want to do it in phases. We've heard that. I'm meeting with some of those folks on Friday, so I'll know more about what their idea is. The idea of doing it in phases, that is a terrific idea, but ultimately that's going to lead to phase one. Then also that means there'll be pressure to do phase two and phase three. And what does that overall plan look like? And what is that total investment in that facility going to look like at the end of the day? I don't know that you can, some of the concepts that have been shown, I'm not sure a $600,000 budget builds that out fully. I'm not sure, but at the same time, we need to understand, the county talked about, well, we don't necessarily need to build new restrooms at that area because we have some there. That's a great point. So let's see what that impact is and see what the total plan looks like as they flush that out. Right now, it's a budget number, and so we should participate in the budget planning, the planning process, and then come back with an actual final budget for what that is. I know their target is $600,000.
We're not committing to anything right now, though.
No,
No.
other than to support the effort initially. If they have to, what we have said is that it's important, the boundaries of those property lines. I know Whites Park is a county park and is important for the county to maintain that. But if the project is cheaper grade-wise with excavation and that kind of thing, we shouldn't look at just the rectangle shape. Let's move it to where it needs to be. And if that encroaches on the city side, that was the plan. That's the plan for that to be a park, that's okay. And so.
White Park is their emphasis because they're still concerned about ownership of land.
Yes, and so we're not gonna conflict with that if that's what they want to do, and certainly, and so we'll just lean into their leadership on it, and if they get to a point where we can construct something new for that budget amount and the city, you all want to participate in some portion of that. If the project total cost is 600,000 and you all want to participate in a portion of that, the county has 600,000. If the project creeps up to 800,000, then you all can figure out how you want to participate in that at the time, either way.
That's my concern is that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm shocked, I guess. That's the first I've heard that the county's committing that kind of money to a facility. Because
Yeah.
I know we all talked about it, and
Right.
we've all talked about this huge building, and this is the first I've heard of it. So I just want to make sure the city's not committed to anything.
Well, this
No,
won't- this
no,
won't have
we're
any
not.
kind of,
Other than
No.
to support it with, like I said, if it has to move land-wise, if it has to get onto the fairgrounds, that's what we would anticipate, right? That's normal. Which is why we want to participate in the planning process and, just to participate with staff support as best we can. And like I said, at the time, if they come up with a design that you all like at 600,000, we can ask you then if you all want to participate in that. If it's more than 600,000, if it ends up being a larger number, we can ask you again, or they can fund the whole thing. The city's done individual projects and to be fair, the city's done individual projects in Millennium Park before without 50-50 contribution. So it's not a foreign idea. It's just, we're typically talking about, well, the city's going to build this, and we'll ask the county. Well, that's kind of what they're doing with us. They want to invest $600,000 in pickleball. Fine, we want to support that as best we can. And we recommend you consider, once the bids are known, once pricing is fixed, then you all consider whether or not you want to participate with the county.
and they're
I hope
willing
that
to-
makes sense.
They're wanting to push this to sometime this year, 2025?
They're wanting to get started on it this summer, yeah, just to see. Of course, there's a multi-steps to that.
Oh, I
They're going to have to
understand, yeah.
plan it. They'll have to do a little surveying probably to understand how it's going to fit. That's going to take the next 90, 100 days, to go through that process. I think ideally, when you're looking at the calendar to build flat surfaces like that, and to confirm it with just the tennis court construction that we had, you're going to be better off to bid that in the early spring so that you have a May, June, July construction period. So we would anticipate that coming into construction next summer. I don't know that they can get all the way through the planning process in order to get the ground built in time for this construction season.
And
not rush it.
We're all sitting here shocked about the 600,000. You might want to share with the rest of the commission when this was first discussed with the city and the city's presence. I think that'll help some people sitting here.
Yeah, we met Monday morning about it. Yeah, so the county met last week with their finance committee, and we had, I'm sorry if I didn't say that out loud, but.
No, that's all right.
Yeah, we had a meeting Monday morning with the county judge, and we went through all of their priorities, and this budget reflects what they described to us as their priorities.
Tommy presented the list of the shared items at their fiscal court meeting, and they quickly scheduled the joint meeting afterwards.
Well, it's certainly good news. Can you explain maybe what stages there would be? You talk about maybe building in stages.
I'm not sure yet. I've not seen really the makeup of the $600,000. We're going to follow up. Like I said, we're meeting with the pickleball, some folks in pickleball on Friday. I am, and I'll know more then. From what I understand in this conversation Monday, they're looking at 6 to 8 courts, which is what we were proposing. The new footprint. If you're going to build new, that's what we had originally proposed up there on top of the hill, which isn't necessarily, that location wasn't received by everybody well, which is fine. That was just an idea, so we'll see where they go with it.
For the quote-unquote pickleballers in the county have reached some kind of agreement that this is an okay location?
Far as I understand, yeah. Yeah, I mean, and you can fit it, there's room to fit it in out there. around the tennis complex, Brown Building. What I just encourage them to think about is don't be so fixed on, well, this is the property line, we got to turn it this way and fit it right here. Fit it where it's the most efficient to build, and it will drive the cost down. We've got to plan that space. We do have some room on the backside of the Brown Building up there where their bathrooms are. There's some space up there that really doesn't have a program. We had anticipated some future parking for that open air Brown Building on to the north. If you've been out there, the black barn probably at some point needs torn down, but it's still sitting there. As we plan that part of the park. But there's some space between that open air barn and the Brown Building that we could probably fit it in without doing too much grade work. That's
And if
about the best I
if
can
the-
describe that. Parking is a problem. They're gonna
Sure,
have to,
that's right.
you know, we don't necessarily have organized parking on that side. If they build a tennis or a pickleball complex on that side, we're gonna have to address parking at some point. Because when they do group pickleball, you're gonna end up with, 25 people out there. So parking will be, we'll have to develop some parking out there with this phase, which is maybe an expenditure that's not necessarily considered yet, but I don't know that. So we'll look at it and see.
And part of our contribution could be laying outside of White Park,
Yeah,
since they're concerned about ownership.
yeah.
Well, that's good.
Can I ask on the budget, back to the budget?
Yes.
If we're
Yes.
finished with that, I mean, just asking
Yes.
the question. Did you all incorporate the things we had asked at the last meeting into this presentation?
Into we had put everything in there that you had,
Other than the battalion chief,
yeah, I think the only thing not
That's
yet
not-
funded was that battalion chief position.
I thought you all were gonna bring it back in here, like funding it in January. I thought that's what we had asked.
I think you did.
Yeah, and then also on the capital, I see where, and I don't know, I'm just asking, on the police, their video cameras went from 100,000 to 85,000.
Yeah, they got
Has
some-
that been put in? And then also
so that
the-
was, everything so the 85,000 was put in, the few things that we shifted to the first priority, those numbers are all in here. The only other thing that you all did discuss that, I guess that wasn't 100% clear, that's my fault, was the battalion chief is not in there. So
like
but
a
everything
part
else.
year, because we had
Yes.
discussed about,
Yeah,
how the
so
year
not
would-
even a part year, but we can address that.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it would take longer, you aren't gonna hire July 1st.
Yeah, we
none of the
had talked
positions.
about that, and you're right, we didn't.
Because I know
We
Jenny
didn't
had
adjust
mentioned it as well.
for the
so.
part year, right. Yeah, it won't have necessarily a 50% impact at that point
Right.
either. Because it's gonna take some time to hire the other two firefighters to begin with. And so it won't exactly be 50%, it'll be some number less than that. But yeah, I don't know why we didn't do that. We talked about the changes, and we never named that. So that was just an oversight on my part.
Okay. And then on they can do with the 85,000 versus the 100 for the video cameras, obviously. It went down a little bit. And then the bay doors were at 70,000, now they're at 35.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know anything about how much is needed for that, so.
Well, we split that into two years,
Okay.
essentially.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, let me tell you, the $85,000 is a known cost now. It was an estimate before.
okay.
So they were able to clean that up, and which is why we were, that's one of the changes that we were made to be able to bump that forward, is just knowing what the cost was. The second thing was for example, on the bay doors, what I talked about with Chief is doing like the west end of it, doing those two doors, seeing where some of his numbers come in. The $35,000, we can probably, if some of the other items come in a little bit under budget potentially, then we can probably add the other two doors mid-year, if he's coming in, or the overall, as we get known cost in some of the capital items, if they're coming in under budget, then we'll add the other 2 doors. But the chief talked about being able to do that in 2 phases, so felt like that would be a good approach for him, just because of the work involved too.
As long as they're, I
yeah.
mean, I'm just asking because, just asking.
Well, that was an idea from that
The chief
came up with, yeah. Which I agree with. That kind of makes a lot of sense, to be honest. The biggest priority, the bigger priority is securing the doors that are the 2 west end doors, and then making sure that our trucks are in operation. So once we've gotten all of our trucks back in service, then if you end up with extra money, then you can start shifting it towards the doors.
Oh, remind me what well, I know what wayfinding phase 2 is, but, that's something we're just gonna put off for a little while?
Well, it's
basically, or-
more because of staff time. I mean, we're working on the welcome to Danville signs, so you're, we did do a little bit of the wayfinding and pedestrian things downtown last year. And so what I've asked Josh to focus on is, to hustle on, is the welcome to Danville signs. And so I think by the time they get that in, it's gonna be a little bit.
Okay.
And so that's purely one of those that we could deal with, probably next year, and still align with staff time.
Okay.
So any of these things could come in under budget, hopefully.
So if
or
they
you
come in
can
under budget,
work.
you're talking about if the welcome signs come in at 85,000, then we can start thinking about the bay doors, right?
That was a bad example because we've already bid that out, and so they won't come in under budget, but if something else does.
We've already been
Wishful
there.
thinking.
Well, we're working on that as an option to still come in under budget. We're not gonna take a project like that necessarily when we get pricing and just run the price up.
Right.
Because we will seek changes to the signs to make sure
Yeah.
that they're at our target number before we award that. But to her point, yeah, the version of the signs with the stone columns on the sides, we're over budget. And so what we're trying to do is develop an option without those that is the same concept, that accomplishes the same visual objective, and then that's under budget. So we're working on that. We actually talked about that already this week with Melanie and Josh.
Change the height of the stone, I guess, 'cause it's pretty tall.
Or eliminate some of it and just use our existing bases only and don't add more stone to it. So we're trying to drive that back to where it should be, and that's what our target is. And if we can get it back under 120, like I said, that's money that you could do your bay
Well,
doors
I
with.
can lay stone.
Okay.
Yeah, I
There you
can't.
go.
Not well, but I can lay.
We'll get you a yellow vest.
Yeah.
We take donations of time and
In
labor.
kind, that's in kind labor.
Of course, sometimes, you have to take in kind and it doesn't work out right, you pay twice as much to get it repaired again, so be careful.
Very true.
So I guess the overriding question though is that on all these, this new project list, staff has had input, staff has had a chance to modify and do some research, and these are getting closer and closer to real numbers in some of these.
I think you're getting to the point where you're starting to get into, splitting hairs. We did not add the battalion chief. We need to do that.
Yeah.
We need to add some allocation to the 250th, and we need to balance that 17,000 in the utility fund. To me, that's the 3 things that are make this missing, unless you all think of something. I wanted to make sure we reviewed what the county said, so that, because they did, that's a big commitment on pickleball, taking a leadership role in that's important. And
We've
thankful they're
also
doing that.
Committed to our
Yeah.
list of 432,000,
32,000.
yeah,
Yeah.
so.
So that, we appreciate that a lot and thank them for that leadership and then,
The welcome sign been financed completely by the city?
Yes.
yeah.
I wonder why the CVB and the chamber and people like that aren't willing to,
Put some funding in.
you know.
To be fair, I don't know that we asked them,
Okay.
but I also don't know if that's something they typically contribute to.
It's worth an
New day,
ask.
new Dodge in town,
We,
right?
I think it's worth an ask.
It's
They're
worth an
helping get signs for Perryville.
Because I know, like, the Development Corporation is funding some of the signage for the wayfinding for Perryville and Junction, so maybe there could be a,
We'll have that conversation.
They just expect us to do it ourselves.
Earl, the only other two things I'm just curious about it, the Subbasin S implementation,
Josh shifted those a little bit.
okay, but I mean, that's okay, I mean, it's not gonna cause any further damage or do anything
As far as I understand, no.
and based on what Josh and I talked about last, which, the formal plans weren't probably developed enough that you would be budgeting for it in the upcoming fiscal year. I think we did move over some of the small, like the culvert replacements and things like that, to move those up in priority.
So so how it will play out, staff time-wise, is getting these three culvert and ditch replacement and upgrades takes a lot of staff time. And so by the time we get done with that in Subbasin F, then he's kind of out of staff time in this construction cycle for himself. And so we're trying to manage his time as well, not put too much on him in any given, yeah.
Okay, makes sense.
We do get contract support with some of the planning for stormwater, but there again, that requires surveying, it requires analysis, and it just takes time.
Yeah,
Takes time to go all the way through those. Stormwater takes a lot of time to model, to be able to predict those flooding events you're trying to offset.
oh, and the other one was if we have a winter like we just had, is that salt box, snowplow, dump truck thing gonna be, do we have enough to get through another winter like that?
Well, it'd be nice to move that dump truck up that's in Public Works. Josh and I talked about that. That's $250,000.
Yeah,
We can take another look at that to see, but right now, I think until we get to the end of the fiscal year, I would be hesitant to pull the fund balance down more.
oh, I agree, I'm just, y'all know what kind of condition our equipment's in better than I do,
It's a priority, and to be honest, we do need it. But it's $250,000. It's a big, that's one of the long, but it's a 20-year truck. It's kind of like buying a fire truck. So we'll continue to look at that option. Marshall did good
that's what I was gonna ask.
a couple
is
of
there
years
any
ago
way you
finding a
could-
couple used.
ones.
Yeah.
And I don't mean if it's.
And,
nice
and
used one.
we'll,
It's just very difficult to find good shape used ones. Marshall and, Chris, before he retired, they spent a lot of time looking for them. But they did finally find one, but it was a very long time.
for a truck used in the salt world too, is a lot more destructive on it. It's much more challenging to find a dump truck used for salting used. That's a harder lift. Yeah, because the salt's so destructive on the truck.
Yeah.
And so you tend not to want to necessarily trust to use what you can see with your eyes and something like that sometimes. But we will 100% look for that as an option, and we'll try to figure something out on that.
Other comments?
just
Questions?
Yeah, back to Parks and Recreation. It's good news that we're moving forward on pickleball. And if that's the case, the line item for Jackson Park court improvements, how is that affected?
That's a second tier priority. I would honestly, if the county is spending or investing $600,000, that's not something we're going to pursue over the dump truck. We would pursue the dump truck first, and then depending on how that played out, then react. You may choose as a commission to invest in the pickleball courts, if that's an $800,000 project. We don't know yet.
Yep.
So
And
let's get
that's-
through the planning on that before we
And that's
spend.
where I'm going, is
Yeah.
that 150 may be able to be shifted over,
Yeah.
is where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we shifted originally we did have the Jackson Court improvements as a priority, but based on the county's feedback on what they're willing to contribute toward, we rearranged some of those park projects to move them to our priority list, to move them up ahead of time,
Yeah.
so.
We didn't see a reason, if all the projects are on Tommy's list, we didn't see a reason not to make the projects the county agreed with as a priority.
Sure,
We felt
that's
like that,
fine.
so we did
I'm just saying we might
adjust for
have
that.
some money we can move over to help move that pickleball complex along. So.
Yeah.
Well, and
Let's
that
go through
was-
the planning process is our recommendation, and then seeing what the plan is, seeing what the cost for the actual plan becomes based on actual bids.
And let's don't lose sight now that fiscal court has come forward $600,000 to do a project, quote unquote, almost on their own. I'd say stay out of the way and let them do it if at all possible. And I mean that in a positive way, because I keep saying, we talk about things and we do things. This is a chance where they talk about something, they might get something done, with or without a major support from us.
The project that you're supporting them on is the mountain bike park,
Yeah.
and, you know, they really wanted to go ahead and invest time and money in the skate park improvements. It's due, it's 20 years old.
Yeah.
And so it's easy for us to support those initiatives, which were also on our list, but we hadn't necessarily made them the number one thing necessarily. So you're supporting the county too, in the way it lays out, in my opinion.
None of us shocked. Good.
For the benefit of the rest of the commission, Earl probably knows this, but I also had a meeting with the county concerning the Alum Springs Mountain Bike Park, and there's some great enthusiasm from that side, physical court.
Yeah.
As well as ours, so that's promising as well.
Well, they put, yeah, good little money aside for it. Yeah. This is a good list of shared projects from Tommy's list.
The community at large, when we go through this list, if all these are able to be done in the next 10, 11 months, you're going to see, these will impact things. The improvements to the furnishings at Millennium Park, you're going to get new water fountains for that dollar amount. You're going to get some new, you're going to probably get some, if we can get the ADA bedding for, the rubberized bedding for the playground, you're going to see improvements on this. This is a good list of improvements. Tommy's done a good job with organizing his thoughts with what's going to be impactful improvements to the facilities. All these are needed. We spend money on mulch every year that's really expensive, to be honest, in that one playground. This offsets those expenses in the future. So these are targeted, they're good ideas, and certainly, we appreciate, again, the county stepping up.
Good list. Other comments or questions? Y'all have some other stuff y'all want to walk through for us, or what?
We'll go through whatever y'all want. That's the discussion in general after y'all had time to sit at the numbers. I appreciate y'all bringing back up the battalion chief. We just didn't do that, and that's on me. But making sure we got your all's feedback based on what you all can identify. After that, we'll come back with a comprehensive presentation unless you all see fundamental change, if you're ready to start moving towards a final budget version, we will start assembling it with that mindset, and our next presentation will look more like the 29th, I think, is the next budget meeting.
Yes.
We'll steer that towards, this is the final budget as we have it presented. and
This
see
is
how.
where your dollar, you
this
know,
is-
total dollars, where your fund balance lands,
Yeah.
et cetera.
Commissioner Holland is not with us this morning. Need to have this shared with her, give her a chance to, between now, and the next meeting.
Yes.
In case she has.
The copies you have in paper will be in your online packet this afternoon.
Okay.
So she'll have them electronically, and we'll reach out and ask if she needs a paper copy.
If you just tell her they're online, I think she'll go look at them. Excuse me, give her a chance to have some input. Because as we move toward this thing, as the four of us get, well, the five of us need to get real comfortable with this, because you want us to,
Our schedule is, like Earl said, next meeting, May 29th, would be what we consider a final draft based on the feedback from today, and the previous meetings. And then, assuming there are very minor tweaks or none at all, fingers crossed, you guys love it, we would have our first reading on the regular commission meeting on June 9th.
and I'll say this out loud too. From reading the larger sheets, I see places where there's some flexibility, that if things were to come, like if somebody brought a major homeless initiative to the community, we wanted to be a part of it, I see some places where there'd be some flexibility to address that issue. So I think we're getting close. Did you have another topic you want to bring up? You got that look on your face. You okay? All right. Donna? Kevin? Yeah.
Comments will be thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Appreciate the work
Yeah.
and the presentation. And listening to us.
Well, but for good
Something
or,
at least
yeah,
never done.
yeah, but for good or bad, I think the community needs to see and understand that the commission has had lots of opportunities to review and critique, praise, whatever the proper words are, the presentations, the way you're trying to spend taxpayers' money. And I think we've had lots and lots of opportunities for input in these meetings as well as every day that we can reach out and ask you guys a question, so been good.
And also to see, I mean, you want staff to feel comfortable in this too, so
Yeah.
all the department heads, I mean, hopefully they see it, they hear it, and they're comfortable with it too.
This is their budgets. I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
But that's not lost
Yeah.
on me, and I know
Yeah.
Lee as well,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
I appreciate their, doing what they had to do to get it to all work.
I mean,
Tough
yeah.
decisions, I'm sure.
I'm glad to see them at the meetings and then hopefully more at the final one, just so we know everything's covered that they
And
need.
quite a few of them listen in, just, I know they do, just because they ask about things, if they're not available during the time. I will say, from a manager, like at finance, the finance director, as a person with a budget of my own, we did as minimal tweaks to individual budgets as we possibly could this year.
Right.
That's good.
And, I mean, we do that every year, but it's very minor, and so.
So expenses grow,
Yeah.
and a lot of times we'll get requests, and then we whittle at them. We tried not to do that this year.
That's good, let them
We
win.
tried to let the budget grow a little bit
Right.
for them, from a construction materials, from a standpoint of contract services that they reach out for during the year to help them be efficient, those things. We tried not to get into that this year intentionally. All the department heads, so you know, watch the meetings. They'll reach out to me after the meeting and talk about interactions that we have. So the department heads, to their credit, Marshall's at the water plant right now. I know he's watching, for example. I know the chiefs watch. We receive feedback every meeting. So just because they're not sitting in the room, don't mean they're
Right.
not watching. The world of YouTube is very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do. They also like to come back in and say, oh, did you hear what Commissioner Peak said.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
did you catch that?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just, you know.
So you don't see their facial
It's-
reactions
It's a
anymore, which
group.
is
I mean,
probably
you
a good
know,
thing.
Being there.
I'm
it's
just
a
picking
group-
on you.
It's a group.
It's usually Kevin.
Yeah, it is.
Usually Kevin.
It's a group that, you know, our whole entire city runs because of them.
Well,
And Earl, I appreciate you.
No,
and-
it's,
but
I'm
they-
not
it funnels up
operating
to
under
you.
any illusions that
Right.
that it doesn't take a
And
good
Lee.
team.
But the real thing about the budget process is that if I ask the fire department to give me all their budget requests for, what, 25, 26, well, they all got a dream list. And they also got what I call a realistic list.
Yes.
First, second, and third priority. So that's why we got to go through this process. As I submit things for my budget, if you gave me everything on my list, I'd say, man, something's wrong with the city early, though, you know, because, so it's a work in progress. And I think they all understand that. And I think if they're getting the kind of input that we are led to believe that they're getting, then when this thing is done, everybody's going to be okay and very positive, can talk, say good things about it.
Yeah, the things that we get from the department heads are not pie in the sky things. They're not these things that are,
That's right.
we want a new something just because we want a new whatever that
Another new
is.
fire
Never
truck.
had.
We,
Just
that's,
got one last
those,
week, right?
those, to be clear, the department heads
Yeah,
bring forward things that are next on the list that they know we need.
yes, that's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And that is systemic, and we appreciate
Yes.
that thought and that effort, and the subordinate staff that support the chiefs do the same thing,
Yeah.
right? And so, and I've been part of the conversations with some of them, and some of them not necessarily, but it's, you know, you have a good team of folks that support the city, and I appreciate just being here around them sometimes, to be honest, because we can get into conversations, and we have a smart group of people that work for the city.
Well, when we say that the public doesn't really understand how highly trained and how highly skilled and how highly educated all city employees are when it comes to their job responsibilities and their job completion, the community never will understand. But we understand because we get to hear and see it. Every time we go outside these four walls, we get to hear it and see it. So
And we're not perfect, we make mistakes,
No,
it's
we're
easy
not.
to make
No, that's right.
mistakes, because we are involved a lot,
Yeah.
we're an active group of people, across the board, every department head's out and about and doing things. So when you do things, you're going to make mistakes.
Yes.
When you're active. It's how we react to it. We try to react to it in a healthy way, try to take it, when folks criticize us, and we try to take that and learn from it every time as best we can. That don't always mean that when somebody says that, well, that you all need to do this, that don't always mean we can do that. But just because we hear it means we can store it, and the next time that we have an opportunity to adjust, maybe we incorporate that thought then.
Yeah.
And so we value that feedback, even if we can't react to it.
Your statement about how impactful these things just in Parks and Rec.
Oh, yeah.
Because citizens, you know, they sort of see and feel those things. But the things that we do with law enforcement and with fire, I don't want to feel them and see them. I don't want the truck to come to my house. I'm glad the truck's there, but I don't want it to come to my house. I don't want the chief and all the whatever to come to my house, because, you know, but it's good to know that it's there. And that's what I try to say to citizens all the time, is that these things are there just in case you need the service and the benefit.
As an aside, we'll be going to London tomorrow for a
Wow.
minute
Okay.
and
Wow.
talking to some of those EOC folks down there
Wow.
directly. That's a mess.
Yes,
And when I say that with love, I mean, there's fatalities,
yes.
there are significant life-changing
Yeah.
issues there that will be long-term.
Yes.
You know, some of the tragedy there,
Yeah.
you know, is tough to wrap your head around. Entire families,
Yeah.
you know, so we've allowed that to decompress. We were in touch with their mayor last weekend. We were in touch with some of their council members last weekend. We're allowing the initial emergency response. I know our police chief, our folks have been in touch with them, made offers, and it's trending towards time for us to maybe provide something, whether it be, you know, a couple dump trucks and a loader for a few days. We don't know yet. We'll try to identify that tomorrow. But just so you know, we've not talked about that yet. But we're aware of it. We've reached out, and we're allowing that to get through that initial phase of shock. And as they organize their work, we'll try to see if there's support that can be offered from this community.
The number of Lowell County citizens who are still in the hospital in UK was announced this morning. It blew my mind. Hadn't heard that number before.
How many
Man.
was that, Mayor?
The number of citizens from Lower County that are still hospitalized in UK. It was 7 or 8 that are still in the intensive care unit, and it had to have been over 30, 35 folks altogether hospitalized at UK. You know, tell them about some of the other hospitals in Lexington, but, you know, it's scary.
And then they mentioned, I mean, first on the news was Danville's Salvation Army was there. And then also, I want to thank, you know, Ben and the senior citizens for what they did. Bringing, I don't know, all of the meals or taking those meals down there.
Yeah.
So,
Changing up a little bit, this is somewhat budget related, I think, or you can tell me not, but can you talk a little bit about Boyle County's having to pull out on their free education at Jenny Rogers, how that's going to affect us?
That's a fluid situation, in my opinion. We met with some of the early childhood folks. I think they're trying to wrap, the community of early childhood development is trying to wrap their heads around what reaction should be. The school has a specific position on some of those thoughts, but we like I said, we have met with them. The concept, I think, is not aligned necessarily. They're trying to, the model that we looked at that's very successful for the school district in Pulaski County, for example. They have 250 kids in the facility that Boyle County was trying to duplicate. I think right now, getting this facility aligned with why that is financially successful is you know, a multi-step process, and I think I don't know how that's going to play out, frankly. I don't know that the school can change their course. I don't know any of those things yet. Because it's not a city-ran situation fully. We are invested in supporting the early childhood development, and so we're trying to support those groups and continue that conversation. How we left it, and I know that seems very vague, and I'm not intentionally vague. It was just a 2.5-hour conversation, right? So what we're trying to do, what we did was walk away from that initial meeting with things that we know would need to be fixed or adjusted in order for that to be successful, but at the same time, decompressing for a week and then coming back together. So the next step for us, for me, in terms of how can we contribute leadership in the situation for the broader community, is we're going to try to get another meeting scheduled. The problem for us, I would normally say, well, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. Problem is you're getting to the end of school, graduation.
Yeah.
And so what we'll probably have to do is align a meeting shortly after graduation to try to see see where we're going to land. So I think the conversation's not concluded. I think the school has a position that is based on their financial resources and the availability of those and their spending priority and all those aspects. I think this school, though, is unique in that it does create an opportunity for a separate revenue stream. In order to maximize that revenue stream, certain things have to happen. I'm not sure if the school is capable of doing some of those things so the extended hours, the type of employees, how you structure that. There's issues that the school is having, and what I'm trying to do is do more research on the Pulaski County model that, again, is financially successful and is significantly successful. It's a model. It's got, like I said, it's got 250 kids in it. So we'll see, we'll see how it plays out. Don't know yet.
But one major difference is that I was understanding that Jenny Rogers was doing a child care center, okay, not a preschool center. And a child care center is 24/7. A preschool is just from 8 to 5,
Right.
8 to 3, whatever, you know, and I think that's
Yeah,
one of the major differences.
and so it definitely drifted towards that.
Yeah,
Well, and that's not absolutely, and we expressed this last week, that the idea that it's a preschool is absolutely not what was proposed,
That's
right?
right. That's
It was proposed, and that's not a challenge to them, that's just not the concept that was conceived when the original discussions were happening. The model in Pulaski County advertises it not as a preschool, but as a childcare facility. The idea that it's a preschool happens inside of a childcare facility. And so flipping that is a little hard, and they're structurally, you know, the school has to have the financial resources to absorb that first few years till you grow that enrollment population. So parents that are two have childcare secured for their kids typically, right? They're not necessarily in transition. So to get 3 and 4-year-olds, you have to also get them at 1-year-old. And as that child ages into those upper categories, then you're going to have a larger enrollment in those upper categories. You're not just going to get a 4-year-old to come to the facility necessarily because the parent already has secured that childcare at that point, right, if they're employed. So there's a lot of nuance to it. But like I said, the easiest way I can describe it is it needs to be a childcare facility. And the idea from the early childhood folks as a group is that we need to steer early childhood development into some of our childcare. School's a perfect effort group to lead that, right? And so then how does that happen? And as that as staff has turned over and as that you've had a little bit of scope creep towards the early childhood side, and that's really not what the facility, you're going to decrease your enrollment if you do that, right? So we got to work through that. We got to work through that.
And based on the meeting that I sat in with Earl last week, we don't see any changes currently to the actual impact on our budget. So there are no planned changes monetarily on our end
but
currently.
if we had offered all of our employees who need childcare, free childcare at Jenny Rogers, they would not have been able to take it up because they worked till 5 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock.
Correct.
In our setting, so that place is closed by then. That's what was, again, didn't really know that. That's not our business to be involved in that, but it has become our business now, but kind of scary. You asking?
Well, just
No, that's a good question, no.
kind of curious, you know, that
Yes.
it's a facility, a wing of that facility that there was some income, we provided a service, and now it's in disarray. I just wanted to get better informed.
Which our income is strictly based on a lease. And there are currently no changes to the lease agreements. And the school is aware of that.
You've been very tactful in saying that. I appreciate that. Like, lease agreement, and then also with some grant things, but again, they're not a part of our discussion this morning. Other comments or questions about the budget or about city government, or about our operations?
You'll just implement the things we talked about
Yes,
next week.
yes.
Right, okay,
And
We'll put together some slides next week
Okay.
that provide a comprehensive view of the budget again.
So then the chair would like to entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
so moved.
Thank you, ma'am.
Second.
Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 Those opposed?